During World War II, over 7 million women in Britain were employed in some form of war work.
I found an article from 1940 which quotes Winston Churchill calling upon 1 million women to come boldly forward into Britain's war industry. Its headline was, "Munitions is a wartime job for women."
I wanted to find out more about women munition workers, so in August I made my way to Hereford to uncover the history behind Rotherwood's munitions factory. Whilst I was there, I asked Dr. Noel Meek from Hereford Waterworks Museum more about Rotherwood's story.
The factory was expanded in the 1930s leading up to the Second World War. And in the beginning, it was mainly local people who were employed there. But the factory expanded so much that they needed many, many more women. And so they were brought in almost under conscription, particularly from the West Midlands and from South Wales. And at the height of production, there were about 5,000 women.
If you look outside the window, you can see the remains of what was Rotherwood's munitions factory. It was changed to industrial units after the war. You can just see the triangle roofs.
I later found that these buildings were part of a much larger estate, with, to give you an idea of scale, its own power station and water supply.
The work that they were doing during the Second World War at Rotherwood was filling shell cases with explosives and timers. The shell cases were being made elsewhere, and the shells were ultimately used by the Royal Navy for firing from large naval guns.
An article from 1941 suggests that women employed filling shells that year received £4 and 4 shillings for a 55-hour week, which is roughly £4.50 an hour today. If you were one of the women working at Rotherwood's during World War II, you would have had to prepare explosives, clean shells and bomb cases, and load railway trucks. Because of the physicality and hazardous nature of their work, the women's health became a key concern for Rotherwood's factory.
Knowing that they were going to be involved with noxious chemicals, when the building was expanded in the late 1930s, they introduced a hospital onto the site.
Perhaps due to its previous role in World War I munitions, Rotherwood's had considerable knowledge of the effects of the various chemicals, including yellowing of skin and rashes. Many of the women bathed up to 3 times a week to try and remove the chemicals from their skin. Pictures I found of women munition workers from World War II show them wearing cloth caps, long overalls and soft shoes, which look an unlikely protection.
There was always the danger of explosions, and there were some explosions that took place, and one of the explosions killed quite a number of people.
At the start of each shift, the women were strip searched for zips, metal buttons, anything which could cause an explosion. If you were found in possession of a match at Rotherwood's, you risked being taken to the magistrate.
There was also one single occasion when a German bomber got as far as Hereford and he dropped 2 250-kilogram bombs.
Several explosions at Rotherwood's killed 29 workers in total. The explosion on the night of May the 30th, 1944, was not reported in the press until January 1945, when several of the rescuers were given George medals for their bravery.
The munitions factory had their own fire brigade, and this engine was designed exclusively, not for drinking water, for pumping water. This engine was capable of what they called filling a jet, 4 jets of 25mm diameter to put out fires, and that really is quite a lot of water.
During World War II, 1.5 million women worked in munitions factories such as WWII. Yet articles at the time were unable to recognise the scale of these women's contribution.
Women munition workers were at considerable risk, yet they continued to work despite the pressures of reoccurring explosions and the threat of external attack. These women were integral to Britain's war supply.